even deeper than that, I wanted you to feel pain.
Yes.
Right? There's a part of me that wanted that. My little child is still at play here. And my little child wants a pound of flesh for the pound of flesh that was taken from me.
Right.
Right? That's what I really want.
Yeah.
That's my subconscious motivation.
Yeah.
You hurt me, and I want you to feel that pain.
Mm-hmm.
That moment right there. Now, that's not something most couples ever say out loud, but if you're honest, you've probably been there. And this episode is about that moment. Not the argument you think you're having, but what happens underneath the conflict. When pain turns into power struggles, and when repair feels harder than the fight itself. See, in this episode, we're inviting you into a real conflict we had, how it escalated, what we each missed, and how we eventually found our way back to each other. This isn't about doing conflict perfectly. It's about learning how to stay connected when it's messy, emotional, and real. Have you found yourself arguing about something small that suddenly felt like everything was at stake? This episode is for you.
I'm Emily Goff, a relationship coach. I've spent years exploring how we connect to grow and heal in love.
And I'm Kelly Gardner, an embodied leadership coach and communications consultant. Love isn't theory, it's practice.
This is Love in Practice.
Let's grow this.
We're rolling.
We are?
Yeah. Because, one thing that happens in this whole virtual world of podcasting and everything is, it's like everybody's got to get it right, So we were trying to record an episode about conflict, and that brought us to conflict. Yeah, so we were sitting at thinking, what do? We got into conflict, and we can't even finish this episode, so... I figured the best thing that we could do is just invite people into the reality of what it really looks like. So here we are, in a conflict about how to produce the best possible episode around conflict. Because this is it, right? This is what conflict really looks like. It is all of the ridiculous things that come up that stand for so much more. And we can get into the weeds around like the little things that are showing up, like twinkle lights. For those of you who don't know.
I was just going to say, we might need to define them.
Yeah. So bear with us. We're going to get to something that really is deep and meaningful here.
Yes.
But for those of you who are watching this, you can see that there are some beautiful twinkle lights behind Emily right now. Emily takes the greatest joy in the smallest things. And it is one of the most beautiful things about who she is. And one of the things that she lights up with joy around is what I generally refer to as Christmas lights. And there are some wounding around twinkle lights as well, which we'll get into.
What a weird thing to have wounding around.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We're walking around town looking in, and she keeps pointing the twinkle lights. I'm like, wait. Is any light on a string a twinkle light? And does that mean that we get excited every single time? Because, I'm not as excited. And my rational mind needs to have some definition around what is a freaking twinkle light. And so we had a moment. We had a moment around a couple days ago around the twinkle lights that became the foundation of Twinkle Gate. And I think that this is beautiful because so many people experience conflict just like are we really arguing over how many drops of soap you put in the dish detergent?
I mean, that's the thing. It's never about the thing that you're arguing about. There's always more underneath the thing that is just the surface level thing that we attribute to it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about twinkle lights. Like, what's your connection to that, and what does it mean for you?
I just think they're pretty. They bring me joy, and I just think that if there's an opportunity to have twinkle lights or to appreciate twinkle lights, they are beautiful. And yeah, and so in a 9-year relationship I was in years ago, he was also an electrician, and I feel like that's a relevant detail because lighting, electricians, right? Like they kind of go hand in hand. And he was also aware of my joy and appreciation around twinkle lights. And I kept asking for twinkle lights for the back patio, or even like in the house, but like especially on the back patio. And he was not having it. And it was not the only time that he seemed to put effort into stamping out some of my small joys, to the point where there were aspects like things around Christmas. I used to get so excited around Christmas. And over the course of years, he diminished that to a degree that I stopped getting excited about Christmas for other reasons as well. But that was a big part of it. And the twinkle lights, in 9 years, he just flat out would refuse. So you then made a comment in the car the other night. I pointed out twinkle lights, and you kind of, and you started out like playful about it. You know, it was kind of like a playful comment. You were intending it as a joke. And you were like, okay, we need to like define twinkle lights. What does this even mean? That's where it came up around the,
Yeah.
is this just lights on a string? Do you remember exactly what you said?
We were going shopping, and you mentioned the twinkle lights, and I made a comment that, well, now I can see why your partner never got you those lights, because he certainly didn't want to hear about twinkle lights every 5 minutes of every single day. Which immediately when it came out, I looked at you and I was like, oh shit, I went too far. That comment was not okay. And I immediately apologized.
You did.
I saw the look in your
Yes.
face and I was like, oh shit.
And I called it out. I just, and not even, I didn't like start tearing you apart. I just was like, ouch. Like, I was like, that hurt. That really hurt. Yeah. And you did. You immediately apologized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes humor can become sarcasm.
And
really
I do
quickly.
that too. Like I also, you and I are very playful
Mhm.
individuals, and we're very playful with each other a lot of times too. And we can make jokes in lightness that then that same joke can be interpreted a very different way depending on the mood that the other person is in.
Yeah.
And so while I knew that it was well intended, it was incredibly painful. And I think there was a part of me that was like, I need him to feel the same level of pain that I feel he caused me in that moment. And so I come into the room, and immediately you can tell my energy's off. I'm so transparent, it's absurd. And
Translucent.
transparent to the point of translucent. Yes, there is no, my face and body and energy do not hide anything. And I started sharing it with you, but it was from a very judgmental place. And I was trying to be really careful of like taking responsibility in it for the fact that I recognize that this is my wound, and simultaneously trying to get you to feel the pain of my wound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't working well.
No. And that's where, there's oftentimes in these exchanges a disconnect between what I really want and what it is that I'm saying that I'm seeking in this dynamic, right? So just owning in that moment that really what I was wanting was for you to feel my pain.
Yeah.
Right? And if I go even deeper than that, I wanted you to feel pain.
Yes.
Right? There's a part of me that wanted that. And
Yeah.
so
We've all been there. You say one thing, your partner hears another, and suddenly we're off to World War III.
Those moments aren't about who's right. They're about what's unhealed.
That's why we created the Relational Compass. It helps you see your triggers, your strengths, and how to turn conflict into connection.
5 minutes, powerful insights, totally free.
Find your direction at lipcouples.com/compass and start loving in practice.
this is where I talk about compassionate communication, being misunderstood and misused as, like, here's a framework of language that I can use that will take all of my judgments and all of my ill-conceived notions of what I'm really wanting to get out and try to shove it in this container, put lipstick on a pig and then deliver it and then think that the other person is going to be like, great, I love this container that you put all this bullshit into, right? Using all the nice language, like, hey, this is the experience, this is the story that I'm making up, and this is what I'm making it mean, and I don't really believe this, but here's what's happening, right? So I'm listening to these words that are coming out of it, and I'm going, okay, cool, great. Well, then glad you did your work. What do you need from me? You need anything? And you're sitting there stewing like, I'm not getting the result that I want. And I'm like, but I'm giving you great, you did your work. Is there anything you need? I'm here. Is there anything more that I can give to you to help meet your needs? And you're just like quiet, like, this isn't working. I'm not getting what I'm wanting, right? Internally,
Yes.
not in my awareness, but underneath that. Like my little child is still at play here. And my little child wants a pound of flesh for the pound of flesh that was taken from me.
Right.
Right? That's what I really want. That's my subconscious motivation. I'm really, I'm so glad that you mentioned, you put that out there. I really want my pound of flesh. You took a pound of flesh from me.
Yeah.
You hurt me, and I want you to feel that pain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going to take that on. And so now we're in a new conflict
Yeah.
where it is a misunderstanding. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, I'm holding space for whatever you need. I got you. Let me know what you need. And you're like, I don't need anything. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, if you don't need anything, I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing. And then the tears start coming. I'm like, okay, that didn't work. Clearly, she wanted more than what she was asking for. So let me try this again. What is it? And at that point, now the judgment comes out, right? And now the like, I feel like you're patronizing me, right?
Mhm.
Now we're in a new dynamic, which is here's my wounding,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to be set up to be the parent in this relationship. That is burned to me to be in the power dynamic,
Yeah.
right? So
Which is not what either of us want.
of course,
To be clear,
Of course.
that is your wound, but neither one of us want that dynamic.
right? So now you've hit the trigger where you've hit my wound, right? You've hit my wound, and I'm like, oh, fuck all of this, and this conflict resolution. That's not okay with me. That's a boundary. That's not okay. Now I'm mad, right? And the minute I get mad, you're like, okay, now I know what I want.
Because I don't know what it was about that. I don't think it was unrelated, but like consciously it wasn't related for me. But I got underneath all of my own bullshit. And it was like, I really just want to be held.
Mm.
I want to be held and I want to be reassured in this moment and just loved on
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
And then you didn't want it.
Mm-mm.
So you didn't even want to hear it. When I said, I know what you want, you snapped back at me that you were like, well, I'm not available for that anymore. And so
Just, I'm sure the listeners out here could experience this. You're like, I'm open and available for what you want, whatever you want. Oh, I don't need anything. Like, but now that you're pissed off, I know exactly what it is that I want. Now that I've gotten an emotion, I've elicited an emotion from you, which is ultimately really on some level what you want.
yeah, and not consciously.
No.
Like it wasn't conscious, but yes, that was because if I couldn't get you to feel pain, then anger was a good substitute.
Absolutely.
Because then I'm getting some sort of reaction out of you as opposed to being so neutral that I'm just irritated by it. I'm like, no, if I'm emotional, I need you to be emotional too. Get emotional with me.
And this is that subtle form of testing that we talk about.
Yeah.
Testing my partner to see if I'm safe, right? If I'm already safe, then I don't get to find out whether I will be safe, right? So it's in the moment where he's actually frustrated and angry that I actually get to find out, my subconscious again, not my conscious awareness, that I get to find out whether or not he's actually going to show up in the way that I want him to, in the way that he says he's able to. And of course, in that one moment, in that moment, you're like, oh, he's on his rockers. Not your conscious mind, but my subconscious. He's on his edge. Let me see if I can now get him to give me what I want. And of course, the setup was, no, I'm not going to give you what you want. And the response was, well, fine. When you're ready to hear me, come find me.
Yeah, I don't know if those are my exact words, but something along those lines. Yeah. And I left the room and the way that I left it in my mind was essentially that it was on you then, when you had then calmed down, to come find me. Whereas in my mind, I did make the request, but I did not explicitly make the request. I more or less just told you, come find me.
You told me what I needed to do.
Yes.
And I was saying,
It was a demand, not a request.
And my little boy showed up and said, no,
Fuck her.
I am not going to succumb to your demands. If you want something from me, you come to me. I'm going to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll get into the resolution of how we got there and what repair really looks like. But I think it's also important to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on what was really showing up in that conflict, the pieces underneath it, because on the surface, we're arguing about
Twinkle lights.
twinkle light, you know, but it has nothing to do really ultimately with twinkle lights. Would you share a little bit more, I think, about what it really was about for you and what it was kind of standing for, if you hadn't clarified all that so far?
I mean, what it ended up turning into over the course of the next day, what we really got to the true core of it was me not asking for my needs to be met. And this is a very old pattern for me. Fitting myself into spaces and places and taking the crumbs, not because you give crumbs, but almost I'll only ask sometimes for the crumbs because I don't trust that if I ask for the full meal that I'll actually be given the opportunity to have it. And in a lot of ways, what I've really started to notice is that I'm so unused to asking for my needs to be met that it's really hard sometimes for me to even know what to ask for. So when you are very open and available to me asking for my needs, it doesn't mean that you're going to meet every single one of them. I need to come across with them as a genuine request, not as a demand. But if I'm not even able to bring into my awareness what it is that I need, it makes it really hard for you to meet me where you want to. Like you want to meet me there. But if I can't vocalize it and if I can't even bring awareness to it, because I have such a long pattern of fitting myself in where I don't end up feeling nourished, it's on me. Like that's my responsibility. But then resentment can start to build. And this is what you and I ended up picking up on, where I have over again, very, very long history and only a tiny bit with you, grown tired of not having my needs met and feeling like I'm meeting everyone else's needs. It's like that good girl programming. Like I'll make sure everybody else is happy, but not even asking for the full meal. Just being like, oh, it's okay. I'll live off the crumbs. You don't want to give me crumbs? There's no part of me that believes that you only want to give me crumbs, and you don't. But you also can only give me what I am open to receive. And if I'm not even able to ask you for what I want or need, it's really hard for you to give it to me. You can't read my mind, especially if I can't even read my own mind.
In that, there's a piece of how do I be a stand for what I need in this relationship, in this dynamic, and where have I been shrinking myself down in order to get what I think will be met, as opposed to giving my partner the opportunity to actually meet what it is that I really want. And that's it's such an interesting thing that shows up in so many aspects of relationship and dynamic of, if I ask for what I really want, I'll be too much and I'll be discarded. And the vulnerable piece is to really be honest and ask for what it is that I really need, because on one side, I won't be rejected if I don't ask for what I really want. But I also will never be accepted if I never give my partner the opportunity to actually step up and give me what I want. And so there's an establishment of a story that just continues on. And for me, I've been in a lot of relationships and relational dynamics where I co-created a dynamic where I was the person in power. That, a lot of fatherhood wounds. I'm, not only do I show up in the world as like, hey, this is what fatherhood really means, and fatherhood. But I end up being the father, triggering my partner's father wounds, and showing up as the father in the dynamic, whereas I have a patriarchal dynamic that is co-created. Partially it's on me in terms of, being the I've got the ideas, I've got I've got some clarity, I know what I'm talking about. And people tend to respond to that in a way, but also being put in that position by partners who go, okay, well, you've got it figured out. You tell me how it's going to go. And then buying it. Okay, well, I'll share, and then further creating that dynamic.
Yeah.
And that has burned me so poorly, because once I get into that dynamic where now I'm the father figure in this relationship, now I've created separation. We're no longer equals, and I don't want to be in that position. There's so many negative impacts that have on me and on this relationship, but also in my own wounding around being the know-it-all, or being the one who needs to be in charge or needs to be right. And I don't resonate with that. I don't need to be right. I'm curious. I want to know all the information. That I'm an Aquarian, as has been pointed out. I'm painfully Aquarian, which I totally don't understand how Aquarians can be painful to anybody. We're just here to make.
He's like, painful for whom?
We're just here to make the world a better place for everybody. How could that be painful? And I get the irony, and I say it. Trust me, I do. And so that brings up my own wounding of being too much. And so I desperately don't want to be in the position where I'm the authority figure. And whenever it's this reflection of okay, I'm not going to ask for much. I'm not going to ask for what I need, or I'm just going to accept crumbs, reflects back to me that I'm overbearing, that I'm too much, and that if you were to ask for anything more, that my response is going to be such that it would be, it's like I've been now painted out to be the big ogre in the corner.
Yeah.
And, if you ask me for too much, then the ogre is going to come out and beat you up. And I don't want to be that. And so just the reflection, not even you saying it, but your timidness to ask, reflects back that maybe I'm just a bully, or I'm too much, or I'm going to respond in this way. And that triggers me, because I'm like, no, I'm here to give you what you want. Just tell me what you want, or, let me know what you need. I'm here for that. And so it's our paired wounding showing up in those moments that are actually, it's our wounds talking to each other rather than our higher awareness speaking to each other. And that's what's getting triggered. What's getting triggered for me is one, I'm now somehow the boss. I don't want to be the boss, and you're further painting me into being the boss. So
While also resenting you for being the boss.
Well, simultaneously resenting me for being as a boss, and and now I'm stuck in a catch-22, and I'm angry and I'm frustrated, and I don't want to have any part of this. Just tell me what the hell you want, woman. And even in that, right, even as I say that, what do I want?
Yeah.
Like that is a part of the co-creation of the dynamic. Like, tell me what you want. Like, that's a setup.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, even as I say that, I'm noticing like that's part of the setup. Like, what do I want in that moment, right? What am I looking for? And that's a learning for me on how to reframe the conversation, because I'm inherently creating a power dynamic, and a lot of men do this as well, which is, I don't need anything.
Yeah.
I don't need anything. I'm good. I'm whole in myself. You just let me know what you need, and I'll be there for it, right? Notice the power dynamic that's created when I don't need anything, and I'm only responding to your needs. And so, ultimately, I think that's really what we were exploring, and the dynamic that was underneath the twinkle lights. In addition to it being, hitting, I tapped a core wound.
Yeah.
When I said that, there was it tapped against a core wound that was on some level unresolved around, something that happened in a previous relationship. And in fairness, you shared that with me in confidence, and turning it into a joke, an inappropriate joke at that moment was dirty pool. Wasn't fair. Wasn't a good way to enter into a relationship. And though I recognized it in the moment, I tried to repair through physical contact. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough in that moment, and more needed to be dealt with
Yeah.
around that.
Yeah.
So, cut to the next day,
Mm-hmm.
we got to do some repair.
Mm-hmm.
And then what would you share around the repair process that was beneficial for you, or what really landed?
I approached you much more gently initially, but then you were still feeling some judgment from me. And at some point I recognized within myself, I get to choose how I want to feel. I get to choose how I want our day to go. I get to choose how I want my energy to be. Like, we have choices in that. And that doesn't mean that we don't feel the feels, but I'd already spent all night feeling the feels. I hadn't gotten much sleep. I'd like cried myself to sleep at one point, but I had gotten very little sleep. I had felt my feels. And I was like, I actually don't want to feel like this anymore. So at one point we reconnected physically, in terms of just like looking into each other's eyes. We teach our couples this sometimes too, about how to ground during conflict, and just taking a moment to just be still with each other, breathing together, co-regulating. That really helped. Then there was like some other stuff that came up a little bit later, because I started feeling as though there were patterns that were playing out where over past relational conflicts and stuff as well, where I was like, I feel as though these are things that keep repeating, in terms of basically what I was trying to point out was the power dynamic. Again, that we were pointing it out to each other from different angles and from different experiences. And we talked through that a lot, and finally ended up sharing with you what it was I really needed, which was I needed what I had wanted to share with you the night before, but I had ill-timed it and ill-communicated it, was that I just wanted some extra love, and that I needed to be held. And we came together and did that. We just snuggled, and I relaxed. I really, really relaxed, and we had a really great rest of the day. But we've had a lot of conflict in the last couple of weeks. And there was some stuff that came up yesterday. And then again, I feel like we actually really got to the root of what I just shared around me not asking for my needs to be met. And it has also not usually ever been safe for me to express anger in past relationships. And I feel way more safe to do it with you, but I sometimes still contain myself. Not because I don't think you can hold it, but for a variety of reasons, I still kind of contain it myself. And to be clear, I'm just not the person who's going to like yell at people. But sometimes I do need to vocally release my anger. It's not directed towards you. And this is, again, very rare for me. This has only ever happened maybe like 2 times in our entire relationship so far. And I needed to do that. And I just basically yelled at one point. I wasn't even yelling anything. Like, there were not words. I just like yelled. And there was such a powerful shift that came from that. And then you and I started immediately like being playful with each other and joking while still getting out the shit.
Silly yelling, yeah.
Yeah, like it was like silly yelling. But we were like laughing as we were doing it, but it completely shifted the dynamic. And I think that sometimes we can get stuck in, at least I can get stuck in sadness sometimes. And I have to do things like really specifically to shift it. I often will try to move the energy somehow, just like by moving my body. Sometimes I am learning I need to just express the anger that is underneath it. Sometimes it's sadness underneath the anger. Other times there's actually a little bit of anger underneath the sadness that needs to come out.
I don't know if you remember, but when you're just like, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, you were excited.
And I was like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's go there, you know? And I think there, it's both, it's a dance. It's a both and.
Yeah.
It's a permission. What I'm hearing is, in the repair, the process to repair really required us to do a little bit more mining. to getting to the core of really, going a little deeper. And this is hard to do in relationship. And it's, I'm really grateful that I have a partner that has so many skills and we can go back and forth in this. And this is where it's so helpful to have, outside support. You even mentioned at one point in time, you're like, I think we need outside support to get to the bottom of this, because it can be really helpful to have somebody on the outside to kind of witness what's going on and help pull out the pieces, because we're interacting on our own wounding. But an outside observer can kind of go, oh, hey, did you notice you said this? Did you notice these things are coming up? And where is that also showing up in your life? And getting deeper and deeper and mining a little deeper until we really got to the bedrock. And, the repair began to happen once we got to the bedrock of what was really taking place. And, what really started to become clear for me was we were having an argument around you saying you couldn't get it right, and I'm going to step over aside for a second and go into the compassionate communication piece, which is, I have 20 plus years experience working with nonviolent communication. I use it as compassionate communication, and teaching the tools around that. And so coming into this relationship, there was a lot of conversations where you're like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not using the right words. I'm not using your words, and I'm not using. And in this relationship, I've had a deeper understanding of some of the limitations of compassionate communication and how. And I've been having this conversation with myself and with others for a good number of years now around the limitations, because compassionate communication typically. And those of you who are interested, you can look up nonviolent communication and Marshall Rosenberg and his work around that, which I've been adapting in many different ways over decades here, to look at how I, as an individual, I'm projecting my judgments onto the person that I'm communicating with. And as a result of those judgments, they're putting up their shield. And so if we can try different ways of communicating, we will be able to, the other person will be able to hear us and hear our needs and be more likely to meet those needs. Because in every communication, all I'm really seeking is to get my needs met. And if I'm not aware of what needs they are I'm trying to get met, then one, I can't make positive requests to my partner, but two, they're not going to be able to meet me because their shield is going to come up. The problem with this is that, we take this process language, when you do this, I feel this, and I would like for you to do this, right? And we take all of the judgments, human beings, we take all the judgments, and we try to shove them into this process language and deliver a whole new, like a pretty set, a very well-worded set of judgments at your lap. And then go, well, how come you're not doing this correctly? I put it all the nice, pretty words, and I delivered my judgment on your lap with a nice, pretty bow on it. So how are you not receiving it? And so that's the hard part of understanding, is really owning the judgment underneath it. And I'm trying to communicate this to you and my awareness and understanding of this. And you're like, how come I'm still getting it wrong? I'm using the words. I'm saying the words that I'm supposed to be saying. And I'm like, but your judgment is still in there.
And it was a particularly big hit to my ego because I teach about communication. Exactly. I was like, fuck you. I know some things about communication. Why don't you recognize this about me?
Yeah. So now here's the bad part, right? Now I'm being the teacher,
right,
in our relationship, which is I'm co-creating a dynamic that I don't want to be in, where I'm now sharing information, and then you have to be the one who's getting it right.
Right.
And you keep trying to follow the rules of nonviolent communication and getting upset, more and more upset that you're not getting it right. And I'm the one in control here who's determining whether or not you're getting it right. So now I don't want to be in this position. You don't want to be in that position. And this is the space that we're actually arguing about.
And we've actually fixed we've healed a lot of that around that specific thing. Now it just shows up in some other areas. And the reason why we got into a conflict mid-podcast was that one of the cameras stops at a certain point. So, we stopped the camera and you said something about, we knew we were going to talk about Twinkle Gate. And you made a comment about feeling as though we should have gotten to it sooner. And because it's, these episodes are very much a co-creation with you. You are my equal partner in this. But because the overall podcast is mine, I take that responsibility really seriously. And I immediately took that on as I didn't bring it up soon enough. This isn't going the way that you wanted it to go. And I didn't even necessarily disagree with you. I was like, I feel like he's right. Maybe we should have brought it up sooner. And then I started questioning me. And then it even in that, it somehow still framed you as being right and me as being wrong.
Yeah.
And then what I started to cry about was that we had just talked about how we care for each other's wounds. And I said to you in total vulnerability, I was like, I'm feeling a lot of distress that I feel like I don't care for your wounds as well as you care for mine. And I'm crying again.
And it's a two-way street, right? It's both caring for my wounds and giving you the opportunity to care for my wounds, right? One of the things that you had done so beautifully is given me the opportunity to care for your wounds. And I may not be as forthcoming in creating the space for you to care for my wounds. It's a two-way street. It's co-creation. You could say that I do a better job, but you could also say that you do a better job of creating the opportunities. And so, I get to jump on those opportunities, and I get to learn how to create better opportunities that don't come with judgment, with shame, with guilt. For me in that moment, it's like, well, I'm the film professor, I'm the storyteller, right? So, just because I made a comment, now that comment is going to mean so much more, and I was just like, hey, I thought there's a tweak. I think we could do this. And now it's like, well, he clearly sees that it's not working. So I did something wrong again. And it's like, no, it's just my opinion. Like, I don't want you to take my opinion so strongly. That's now hitting my wounding. But when we got to the bedrock, and this was actually another conflict that come up the next morning around, we were getting ready to leave to go somewhere. And you had said I'd asked for my need, which was for me to tell you when we were going to,
what time you wanted to leave.
what time we wanted to leave.
Yeah.
But really that wasn't the core need. What you needed was 5 more minutes. Right?
Yeah.
But you didn't want to ask for the 5 more minutes.
And it's because I didn't trust you'd give it to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
At least not without a battle. Like that you would give me a hard time. Total projection on my part. But that you would give me, especially because you are more dysregulated in the mornings.
Yeah.
And I am conscious of that. And we have talked a lot about that and how we can support each other through that. So I felt that in that particular moment in time, that you were not going to give that to me. So I didn't even ask for it.
Yeah. But this is the piece underneath, which is, well, I'm not going to ask for what I want.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for the crumbs of what I want.
Exactly.
And so in the asking, you're getting what you're asking for. You're getting the crumbs and feeling unfulfilled, because I'm only giving you the crumbs.
Yeah.
And not giving you the thing that you really want. But it would be really vulnerable to ask for that thing that I really want, because now I'm set up to be let down.
Yeah.
And then we're right back to the same space. If I never ask for what I want, I will be safe in the sense that I won't be let down, but I will never feel truly safe because I will never give my partner the opportunity to truly meet what I actually need and then feel really safe to continue to ask for the things that I actually really want. And that's, it's like we do this early in relationship. We test with like all of these little pieces, but it's not until I actually get to the bigger pieces of what I actually want in that moment. Not what I think I can get, but what I really want, that I give my partner the opportunity to actually meet me where I want to be met. And until then, I'm only just getting the crumbs and getting upset about not truly getting what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other piece too that I want to point out is that if it sounds like we have a ton of conflict,
We do.
well, we do and we don't though, because there are other times where we can go weeks without having conflict at all. And it's like sunshine and rainbows all the time. And I want to share this with people because I want people to know that it is normal to have these ebbs and flows. And every time you and I have had these like clusters of more conflict in a short period of time, it is always without fail because a wound is coming up to be healed, or there are realizations or a new layer of a wound to be healed, or there are certain realizations that are coming up. We've had arguments before. There are two in particular, one where you had a massive breakthrough, and there's another one where I had a massive breakthrough. And both of those breakthroughs fundamentally changed our relationship for the better. And when I'm seeing these clusters come up, like we've had over the last few days, I know now that I'm like, oh, it's because these dynamics are being highlighted continuously, repetitively, so that we can shift them. Because you and I are so growth oriented, both individually and together, and we're very specific about like we're in this for the growth, that we aren't here to be the same. So when these clusters happen, it's because there are certain dynamics that aren't working. And we are then going to be in that cluster of like bumping up against it again and again and again until we shift it. And yesterday and today, I think were huge breakthroughs around shifting it, because things started to land for me in a way that I had known intellectually, but they were not landing in my body the way that they were before. And that allows me to show up differently in this relationship going forward in a more powerful way, again, for myself and for us.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So repair. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what are the essential elements of repair for you?
For me, I think the biggest part of it starts with just curiosity, like both within and towards the other person. So what is the experience that you're having internally, like yourself? What is it that is being brought up? What wounds are being triggered? What is it that really hit you a certain way about whatever it was that was being argued about? And with the other person, rather than operating, and this is so easy to do, we all do this. I still catch myself doing this. Rather than operating off of the assumptions and the stories that we often create. I've shared examples on here of how I also have done that. Can we get curious? Can we ask the other person about their experience? Can we find out how they're feeling? Can we find out what maybe got triggered for them? That's going to give us a very different and unique perspective on the other person and on the conflict in general and our relationship to the other person. And that's an opportunity for growth. That's an opportunity for deepening the relationship. This is the thing. Repair is where a relationship grows stronger. That's why we can't fear conflict that way. We need to look at it for the opportunity that it is, to recognize that with the right person, that's where you can go deep. And then you create that deeper bond, and you can develop so much more compassion for the other person as well. And you get to carry that forward with you. When you're pissed off with them the next moment, you can come back to that sense of compassion from within, because you asked the questions, you got curious, you figured out where they were coming from with their own unique story, history, background, experiences, childhood, wounding, all of those different things, bringing that all together to be able to have more compassion for them as a human, to see their humanness and to recognize your own. The other piece of the repair is what we've been talking about, which is ask for what you need. What do you need? And that is easier said than done sometimes. And it's a practice, but especially when you can get to these core things, like don't fear the depths of going down there, because you will find gold down there that you and your partner can use to create a stronger bond.
Yeah. You know, what comes up for me is I have some really good friends that have a ranch, and the name of the ranch is Kintsugi.
I always think of this. I put this in my book actually about Kintsugi. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Which is an ancient art form of repair, where you are taking pottery generally and repairing this broken pottery by weaving in layers of gold into the cracks to create a unique new art form. And I think in many ways that's really what the gold is, that we are all broken. We are all individually, we're all broken at in some way, shape, and form. That's basically our journey from childhood through adolescence, is about finding all of the different shards that come together to create this great work of art. And it is through my relational dynamics that I get to find more of those gold threads that are going to put together this unique piece of pottery that is us, not just me, but is us, and craft this wholly new work of art through those slivers of gold. And, getting back to it, the gold, for me to really own and honor that gold is to take responsibility for everything that I can without a sense of shame or blame, to truly take responsibility and say, yes, I own that I did this. I'm not owning that I'm a bad person. I'm not owning that I am an asshole, or, well, I am at times for sure. There's no doubt about that. However, it's how I showed up, not who I am.
Yeah.
And the more to the degree to which I can own the ways that I showed up that were ineffective, and not that I'm bad or I'm wrong, but they were not effective in this dynamic to help me get to where I wanted to go. The degree to which I can own that helps you to understand that I'm human too, that we're in this together, that it's not just you and your wounding that's bringing all the problems to this relationship, but I showed up in this particular way that had this particular impact on your wounding, and that's not effective. There's gold in there. And that's the gold that I get to harvest, to bring back to the relationship and say, I apologize for showing up in this way. My commitment moving forward is to seek to do this. And I'll make a request. Here's how you can help me. Here's how you can support me. You made a simple request the other day. You wanted to be acknowledged more. You do an amazing job of acknowledging me. And, oftentimes in relationship, this happens so frequently, where I speak to my partner in the way that I want to be spoken to. Now, the acknowledgement doesn't necessarily mean as much to me. It's not something that I was necessarily looking for in the same way. I am looking for acknowledgement in different ways, but that's the way that you're looking for it. And you're modeling for me what it is that you want to receive. And hopefully I could pick up on that. But if I can't, you get to say, hey, this is what I need. And I get to say, okay, I'm here to meet you on that. And I also know that this is a challenging one for me. And so I'm going to make a request of you to help me get there. I'm going to see that, yes, I want to do this. I want to do this. And how can I set myself up to succeed? How can I also make a request of you? And my request in that moment was, can you remind me to do that in moments of connection? Which for you is not the times that you're wanting it. You're wanting
Right.
it when there's the disconnection, but it's hardest for me to access that. And I know that about myself. It's hard for me to access that in the times of disconnection. So if I can build a muscle where I can start to do that more regularly, acknowledge you in those moments of connection when it's available and obvious for me, then I will have created a story that's easier for me to access in the moments of difficulty. So the repair is both finding the gold, bringing the gold back to our collective connection, and then also asking for what I need and asking for the support to get me there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other big piece of that as well is really making sure, and we've had conversations about this because it is tricky when we will often do for our partners the way that we want done for us. And we've had a lot of conversations about what works better for you, in just as one example. And then I do that as well. because I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm loving him in the way that he recognizes love, not just in the way that I recognize love and then project that onto him. So that's a really important part of it. And we need to be able to meet our partners there and to be able to have these conversations. There's the other piece that I'll just mention about the connection, the reconnection during repair, is that you and I create very intentional connection points while we are repairing. So assuming that we're in person, which is not always the case, but if we're in person, we will hold hands while we are arguing.
Yep.
We will have like physical touch. We've been holding hands most of this entire podcast episode, and this is very normal for us. It's normal for us when things are good too, but we don't lose that connection piece just because we're arguing, because it's really hard to be incredibly angry at and to stay really angry at someone whose hand you're holding and you are recognizing their humanity.
Yeah. And it's also, again, the reaffirmation, the physical affirmation of I'm not going anywhere.
Yes.
Right? Again, I can say it a million different times, but that doesn't mean that your nervous system is hearing it. And so how do I consistently, over time, continue to show up in a way where you feel, you experience not just the words that are coming out of my mouth, but that this is here. And that's a big one for both of us, because, the leaving or the abandonment is a key piece, right?
Yeah.
And so to the degree to which we have created this for us, you also get to create that for you out there. What is it? What is my core wound? Knowing what my core wound is and knowing what my partner's core wounds are, or wounds, plural, carrying many of them, creates the space for me to have deeper compassion and connection. And when I'm aware of those things, and I can say that I'm in a relationship, I strive to be in a relationship that is not 100-0 or 50-50, but 100-100,
Yes.
in the sense that your wounds are my responsibility as much as my wounds are your responsibility. It's not, you got to fix yourself before you show up in this relationship. Because if I'm waiting for my partner to be fixed before they can show up in this relationship, I'm going to be waiting until the end of days, because it's never going to happen. I don't think we're fully healed and fully fixed in this realm of existence completely at all. We're always walking each other home. We're always walking each other back to that experience. And so it's a co-creation, but also a co-responsibility to put those things on the table, to see them, to acknowledge them, and to create ways of being, for this works for us, that remind each other, not just our mind, but our entire self, that this is the key piece. As we say, love never leaves the room. That's non-negotiable. That's not on the table. Whatever conflict is coming up, leaving or abandoning or running away or stepping out of the agreement, that's not what's on the table here.
Yeah.
When
Love
that
never leaves
becomes
the room.
when that becomes the piece that's on the table, repair becomes impossible, because I'm not taking care of my partner's needs.
And the last, kind of like the last thing that I'll say too is, for anyone who is experiencing conflict as a really negative thing, not only can you learn to fight better, but if you think that the grass is greener in another relationship, you may be wildly wrong. Because if you're not experiencing repair in those moments, and you're not experiencing the growth and healing, and yes, sometimes it is the wrong dynamic. Like, yes, sometimes that is absolutely the case. But other times, if you're noticing patterns where when shit gets hard and you end up in conflict, and then you jump around to a different relationship and you do it again, you are the pattern. And those same patterns are going to show up in relational dynamics with different people until you actually do the work within yourself and with the person that you are in relationship with, to actually start to heal some of those things and to learn how to fight in a way that creates more connection rather than more dis-ease between you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if my partner is trying, if my partner is earnestly trying to do the very best with what they have to meet me where I am, then it's on me to help them find a pathway that's going to help them get there. Um, and so I say, how do I know when I should give up? Or how do I know when I should throw in the towel? How do I know when, this is just not going to work out? I would say that as long as both parties are committed to trying to do the very best that they can, then there's still something there that can be worked through, that can be salvaged, that can be a pathway still, no matter where you are in your dynamic, can still be a pathway to getting there. At the point in which I no longer believe that my partner is capable of meeting me where I need to be met, then they never are going to be able to meet me there because I have not given them the space to.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you've decided that this person can't meet you, they never will be able to.
Yeah.
That's on you. And that's part of a co-creation. I'm not going to say that you're right or you're wrong, but if that's your decision, that's a final decision. Your partner's never going to meet you there. So you make that choice. Each and every one of us make that choice, and you'll know when that choice is right for you. But if you believe that your partner is trying, then the one thing that I would leave you with is, how can I give them a pathway? How can I set them up to win? Instead of continuing to make it harder and harder, because this is what we do in relationship is, if this person really loves me, then they'll jump over this 20-foot wall with barbed wire and electric fence and all of these things, because that's what the person who truly loves me will be able to do. Well, can I just acknowledge that I've got 20-foot fences and barbed wire and throw a ladder?
Yeah.
Give
them a hand up.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be right, or do you want to be in a relationship? Can you allow them the space to meet you where you want to be met, and to help give them the guiding light to get there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I love getting to work with you in a variety of aspects, but I love the work that we're doing with couples
Absolutely.
in particular. It is so beautiful. It's so rewarding. Yeah, we're really excited. We've got a lot going on.
Yes, indeed.
And yeah, can't wait to do more of these. So there's no one I'd rather argue with, babe. Thank you.
It is my great honor to continue to argue with you.
And let's not totally manifest that. I love just loving on you as well. It's not just about the conflict, but if there's going to be conflict, there's no one I would rather do it with.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks. I love you too. Have you ever noticed that kind of conflict that you have with your partner, how it feels different than with anyone else? Like no one else can quite trigger you quite the same way.
It is so true. We tell ourselves if they just stop doing that, everything would be fine. But what if it's not actually really about them?
Yeah. What if it's actually about what they awaken in us? You see, we don't choose our partners randomly. On some level, we choose people whose patterns mirror the very wounds that were waiting to be healed.
That's why the same fights keep coming back, not because you're broken, but because life is giving you another chance to grow.
Exactly. And that's why we created the Relational Compass. It's not a quiz, it's a tool that helps you to see why you react the way you do and what's underneath those reactions.
Helps you find your true north, the place where you can respond instead of react, and connect instead of defend.
You can take it for free at lipcouples.com/compass. It takes just a few minutes, but it might change how you understand every relationship in your life.